The Hegemony warfleet emerged from hyperspace like a dark tide washing across the stars, their massive ships blotting out entire constellations as they approach Earth's orbit. Each vessel dwarfed humanity's largest space stations, their hulls adorned with the scars of 1,000 conquered worlds. The fleet's arrival cast long shadows across lunar colonies and orbital platforms, a deliberate show of force that had broken the will of countless civilizations before. Admiral Jack Harrison stood at parade rest before his office window aboard the International Defense Station Alpha, watching the alien armada with carefully crafted concern on his weathered face. His slightly outdated uniform was pressed, but worn at the edges, a detail the Hegemony's cultural analysts would certainly note and interpret as a sign of Earth's technological stagnation. "Sir," Lieutenant Rodriguez's voice crackled through his neural implant, hidden beneath a convincing patch of synthetic skin. "The Hegemony delegation requests immediate docking clearance." Harrison allowed himself a slight tremor in his voice. "Granted, Lieutenant, and make sure our best honor guard is present." The hesitation was calculated, just like everything else had been for the past 50 years. The Hegemony's diplomatic shuttle was a work of art, all sweeping lines and gleaming alloys. It made the station's docking bay look deliberately primitive in comparison. Harrison had to admire their attention to psychological warfare. Everything about them was designed to intimidate species on the verge of interstellar travel. Supreme Commander Xathtal strode down the shuttle's ramp, his iridescent scales shifting color in the bay's harsh lighting. Two junior officers flanked him, their cybernetic augmentations clearly visible and intimidating. Harrison noted how they barely concealed their disdain as they observed the station's crude architecture. "Supreme Commander," Harrison stepped forward, extending his hand in the human gesture of greeting. He made sure to telegraph uncertainty about whether the alien would accept it. "Welcome to Earth Station Alpha." Xathtal ignored the offered hand, instead activating a holographic display that made the station's monitoring systems look like children's toys. "Admiral Harrison, your species' reputation precedes you. Quarrelsome, divided, yet surprisingly resilient." The alien's translator rendered his words with perfect clarity, another subtle reminder of their technological superiority. "We do our best with what we have, Supreme Commander." Harrison gestured to the station's conference room, noting how the alien's scanning devices cataloged every detail of their surroundings. He made sure they had clear views of the outdated plasma conduits and the seemingly primitive quantum computers that ran the station's life support. As they walked, Harrison's neural implant silently transmitted in a frequency that looked like background radiation. "Sleeping Giant Protocol is go. Authentication code. Thermopylae." Kilometers below the lunar surface, quantum-encrypted messages raced through hidden channels. In the methane seas of Titan, automated factories began accelerating their production cycles. Beneath Europa's ice, massive hangars stirred to life as AI systems initiated final weapon calibrations. The conference room offered a clear view of Earth's defensive fleet, a modest collection of ships that appeared to be cobbled together from decades of different design philosophies. Harrison could see the Hegemony officers making threat assessments, calculating how quickly they could reduce humanity's apparent military capability to orbital debris. "Your species has 2 standard cycles to consider our generous offer of protection," Xathtal announced, his posture radiating absolute confidence. "Submit to Hegemony authority, and Earth will prosper under our guidance. Resist." He let the threat hang in the air. Harrison allowed his hands to clench, a display of impotent frustration that made one of the junior officers click in amusement. "We will need to consult with Earth's governments, of course." "Of course." Xathal's smile revealed rows of crystalline teeth. "We understand some species require time to accept their inevitable destiny." As the delegation departed, Harrison maintained his facade of barely contained anxiety. Only when he was alone in his office did he allow himself a small smile. He activated his neural link one more time. Phase 1 complete. They bought it. Begin Phase 2. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, humanity's real fleet powered up their quantum cores and began their carefully planned maneuvers. The hegemony's grand display of force had shown humanity exactly where to strike when the time was right. The game was on, and Earth was playing for keeps. Supreme Commander Xathul's laughter echoed through the Hegemony flagship's command center as he reviewed footage from the latest diplomatic meeting. On the main display, Earth's representatives struggled with a simple holographic interface, their clumsy attempts at operating alien technology providing endless amusement for his bridge crew. Look how their Admiral Harrison tries to maintain his dignity. Xathul gestured to a particular clip where Harrison appeared to accidentally activate and then hastily shut down a technical display. Such primitive beings, barely able to grasp even our most basic systems. What the Hegemony commander couldn't see was the quantum-encrypted data burst hidden within that apparent malfunction, transmitting vital intelligence about the alien flagship's defensive configurations directly to Earth's hidden command center in the asteroid belt. Supreme Commander, First Officer Kvex approached with a status report. Our deep scans of their lunar colony show exactly what we expected. Inefficient mining operations, basic life support systems, and laughably outdated quantum shielding. Harrison, monitoring the conversation through microscopic drones disguised as dust particles, allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The inefficient mining operations were actually covering the energy signatures of massive manufacturing complexes, and the outdated shielding was specifically designed to appear primitive to Hegemony scanners. Deep within Ceres, the largest of the asteroid belt dwarf planets, Dr. Emma Rodriguez supervised the final assembly of humanity's newest weapon system. The massive fabrication chamber housed what appeared to be a simple debris field to outside scanners, but was actually humanity's answer to Hegemony supremacy. The Quantum Cascade Array. Final calibrations complete on sections 7 through 12, her AI assistant reported. Energy signature masking is holding at 99.99% efficiency. The Hegemony sensors are still reading this facility as a standard ice mining operation. Above them, a Hegemony scout ship passed by, its crew paying little attention to what they dismissed as another primitive human industrial site. Their sensors recorded exactly what humanity wanted them to see: outdated mining equipment and basic resource processing. Back on the International Defense Station Alpha, Harrison was playing his part perfectly. He stood before the Hegemony Cultural Assessment Team, deliberately wearing his dress uniform slightly askew, a detail their psychological warfare specialists would interpret as a sign of a military leader under immense stress. As you can see, Harrison gestured to a display showing Earth's visible military assets, his hand trembling slightly. We maintain these defensive platforms purely for protection against solar radiation and meteors. They pose no threat to your magnificent fleet. The Hegemony observers exchanged knowing looks. Their species had seen this pattern countless times before. A young civilization trying to preserve some illusion of military dignity while facing inevitable submission. But in the shadows of Saturn's rings, humanity's true fleet was stirring. Captain Sarah Foster stood on the bridge of the ETS Shadow Strike, one of thousands of advanced warships hidden throughout the solar system. Her vessel's quantum-fold technology rendered it completely invisible to Hegemony sensors, appearing as nothing more than another chunk of ice and rock in the rings. "Status report," she whispered, her neural implant carrying the command to her crew. "All systems nominal, Captain. The Hegemony remains unaware of our presence. Their patrol routes continue to follow predicted patterns based on their standard conquest protocols." Foster allowed herself a grim smile. The aliens' greatest weakness was their absolute certainty in their own superiority. They followed the same tactical doctrine that had served them well in 100 conquests, never considering that this time might be different. In his private quarters aboard the defense station, Harrison received the daily update from Earth's true military command. The Quantum Cascade Array was nearly complete. The hidden fleet was in position. Every hour the hegemony spent laughing at humanity's apparent weakness was another hour spent perfecting the weapons that would bring their empire to its knees. "Send word to all commands," Harrison subvocalized into his neural link. 72 hours until Operation Thunderbolt begins. Maintain deception protocols until then. Let them keep underestimating us. It will make their fall all the more spectacular. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden forces acknowledged the command and continued their patient wait. The wolf among sheep was ready to bare its fangs. Anomaly detected in Earth's power grid distribution. Supreme Commander. Intelligence Officer Vexthor's fins rippled with excitement as she presented her findings to Xaftel. Their energy consumption patterns don't match their visible infrastructure. The Supreme Commander studied the holographic display with predatory interest. Finally, a crack in the human's facade. Elaborate. Their lunar colonies draw only 40% of what they should need for basic life support. Either they're lying about their population numbers, or, she paused for dramatic effect, they're hiding something. In his quarters aboard the defense station, Harrison received the alert about the hegemony's discovery. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. He activated his neural link. Execute protocol Wounded Bird. 12 hours later, a hegemony scout ship detected an energy spike from Mars. Their sensors picked up a hastily deactivated shield grid around what appeared to be a hidden military installation in Valles Marineris. The base's attempts to re-establish its cloaking field were embarrassingly obvious to the advanced alien sensors. Pathetic. Xaftel sneered as he watched the humans scramble to hide their secret facility. They thought they could conceal a base from us. From the hegemony. Harrison stood before the alien commander, his expression carefully crafted to show a mix of defiance and defeat. "That facility was our last resort," he said, his voice carrying just the right amount of bitterness. "A final defense for our species." The hegemony commander circled Harrison like a shark scenting blood. "And now we found it. Did you really think such primitive stealth technology could fool us?" "No," Harrison whispered, letting his shoulders slump. "I suppose not." What the hegemony didn't realize was that the Mars base was a carefully constructed decoy. Its primitive stealth technology was deliberately designed to fail under their scans. Meanwhile, the real hidden installations throughout the solar system remained undetected, their quantum-masked signatures blending perfectly with the natural background radiation. Deep beneath Europa's ice, General Maya Chen watched the situation unfold through secure quantum feeds. The massive cavern around her housed rows of advanced stealth carriers, their hybrid AI systems running silent. "The fish took the bait," she commented to her executive officer. "Begin power-up sequences on the secondary grid." The hegemony celebrated their intelligence victory, dispatching teams to thoroughly document Earth's failed attempt at maintaining a secret military program. Their cultural analysts added another data point to their species profile. Humans, predictable in their desperation. But in the rings of Saturn, in the Kuiper Belt, and in 1,000 other hidden locations, humanity's real fleet continued their preparations. The Mars base had given the hegemony exactly what they expected to find: a primitive species' clumsy attempt at deception. Their own prejudices blinded them to the possibility of a far more sophisticated strategy. "Sir," Lieutenant Rodriguez approached Harrison after the hegemony delegation departed. "They positioned 3 destroyers to monitor the Mars facility. Their attention is exactly where we want it." Harrison nodded, maintaining his defeated posture until they reached the privacy of his quantum-shielded office. "Perfect. What's the status of the Jupiter shipyards?" "Final weapon integration proceeding ahead of schedule. The gravitational anomalies are completely masked by the gas giant's natural fluctuations. They haven't detected a thing." Beyond Neptune's orbit, Captain David Chen commanded the prototype vessel Nightshade, humanity's first 6th-generation quantum warfare platform. His ship didn't just hide from hegemony sensors. It existed in a state of quantum uncertainty, capable of appearing at any point in a vast engagement sphere within milliseconds. "Battery check complete," his AI reported. All quantum cascade initiators primed and synchronized. We can begin full power generation without detection. Chen smiled as he watched a hegemony patrol pass within 1,000 kilometers of his position, their sensors registering nothing but empty space. Good. Now we wait. Back on the defense station, Harrison reviewed the latest intelligence. The hegemony was falling into position exactly as predicted, their fleet formations optimized to counter threats that didn't exist. They had found exactly what they expected to find, and missed everything that mattered. The trap was almost ready to spring. Junior Science Officer Krelivor stared at his sensor readings for the third time, his crystalline eyes narrowing in confusion. The gravitational measurements near Europa simply didn't make sense. According to his instruments, there were mass shadows where nothing should exist. Lieutenant Commander, he called to his superior. I'm detecting unusual gravitational distortions in Sector 7. Lieutenant Commander Zexthar barely glanced at the data. Another human mining accident, no doubt, like the one they reported near Ganymede last week. But Krelvor couldn't shake his unease. Sir, the pattern seems deliberate. In his command center beneath Europa's ice, Admiral Harrison received the alert about the hegemony's probe. Time to feed them another carefully crafted misdirection. Execute protocol broken mirror, he ordered through his neural link. Within hours, Earth's primitive emergency response ships scrambled to Europa, making a show of investigating a catastrophic failure at a deuterium processing facility. The human crews bumbled about with outdated equipment, their radio chatter filled with panic and technical jargon just sophisticated enough to be plausible. Fascinating, Supreme Commander Xathtal observed from his flagship. They've managed to destabilize their own extraction operation. Shall we offer our assistance? Show them how a civilized species handles such matters. Harrison appeared on the communication screen, his expression carefully crafted to mask both pretend embarrassment and very real amusement. Supreme Commander, we appreciate the offer, but this is a minor technical issue. Nothing that would interest the mighty hegemony. Below Europa's surface, barely 50 kilometers from the supposed accident site, Captain Sarah Foster stood in the command center of humanity's largest hidden shipyard. The cavernous space, carved by quantum drilling technology, the hegemony thought impossible, housed dozens of advanced stealth carriers. Each vessel contained enough firepower to level a small moon. Status report. Foster subvocalized to her eye. Gravitational masking fields holding at maximum efficiency. The hegemony sensors are reading our quantum signatures as natural ice formations. Their investigation team is focusing entirely on the decoy site. In high orbit around Jupiter, Krelvor wouldn't let go of his suspicions. He ran deeper scans, probing the ice moon's structure. His dedication would have been admirable if he hadn't been looking in exactly the wrong place, a fact engineered by months of careful data manipulation. Look here, he pointed out to his commander. These energy readings suggest. Before he could finish, alarms blared across the ship. A massive energy surge erupted from the accident site, causing their sensors to overload temporarily. When they recovered, the gravitational anomalies had vanished, replaced by ordinary ice readings. Harrison's voice came through their comm system again, carrying precisely calculated notes of frustration and relief. Situation contained, Supreme Commander. Just a cascade failure in our coolant systems. Nothing to concern your mighty fleet. Saftal's mandibles clicked in amusement. These humans, they can barely manage their own technology. To think we were concerned about their military capabilities. In the depths of Europa, Foster allowed herself a small smile as she received confirmation. The hegemony had logged the incident as another example of human technological incompetence. The quantum wake from powering up their entire hidden fleet had been successfully disguised as a simple industrial accident. All ships report ready, her AI informed her. Final weapon systems check complete. We can launch at a moment's notice. The massive carriers floated silently in their ice caverns, their quantum drives humming at frequencies specifically chosen to mimic Europa's natural resonance. Each vessel represented decades of human innovation, wrapped in layers of deception and misdirection. Back in his office aboard the defense station, Harrison reviewed the day's reports with satisfaction. The hegemony had investigated exactly as expected, found exactly what they were meant to find, and drawn exactly the wrong conclusions. "Send word to all commands," he ordered through his secure quantum link. "Operation Thunderstrike begins in 24 hours. Maintain emissions discipline until then." Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden forces acknowledged the order and continued their patient wait. Soon, very soon, the hegemony would learn the true cost of underestimating Earth, and Junior Science Officer Krulliver would realize that his suspicions had been correct. Far too late to make a difference. The hegemony flagship's grand ceremony hall gleamed with ostentatious displays of power. Holographic representations of conquered worlds spiraled around the ceiling, while the walls shimmered with recordings of past surrenders. Supreme Commander Xathtul had ordered every detail arranged perfectly for Earth's submission. "A momentous occasion," he announced to his assembled officers. "Another primitive species accepting their rightful place in our empire." Admiral Harrison stood before the massive doors leading to the ceremony hall, his neural implant silently counting down. 47 minutes until Operation Thunderstrike began. He straightened his deliberately worn uniform one last time, preparing to deliver the performance of his life. Inside the hall, the hegemony's entire command staff had gathered to witness humanity's surrender. Their fleet was arranged in a victory formation above Earth, weapons powered down in a display of absolute confidence. Electronic confetti, a mockery of human celebrations, drifted through the air. Admiral Harrison of Earth, the ship's AI announced as the doors swept open, here to present his species' formal surrender. Harrison walked slowly to the center of the hall, each step measured. His hand shook slightly as he gripped the datapad containing Earth's surrender documents. The assembled alien officers watched with barely concealed disdain. "Supreme Commander," Harrison's voice cracked perfectly. Before we proceed, I request permission to address the gathered representatives of the hegemony." Xathtul gestured magnanimously. "Speak, human. Let your words be recorded for posterity, as all surrenders are." Harrison stepped up to the podium, his shoulders slumped in apparent defeat. The massive view screen behind him showed Earth's pathetic defensive fleet arranged below the hegemony armada. 3 months ago," he began, his voice trembling, "your fleet arrived in our system. You showed us the true meaning of power, of civilization. He paused, appearing to fight back tears, of humanity's insignificance in the grand scheme of things. Several hegemony officers clicked their mandibles in appreciation of his apparent breakdown. This was exactly the kind of entertainment they'd hoped for. "We fought against the truth," Harrison continued, subtly checking the countdown. 15 minutes. "We clung to our pride, our independence. But in the end," he let his voice break completely, "in the end, we must accept reality." Supreme Commander Xathtul rose from his throne-like command chair, preparing to deliver his victory speech. And that's when Harrison changed everything. "Computer," he said, his voice suddenly firm and clear, "execute voice command." Lazarus rising. The hegemony officers froze, confused by the sudden change in his demeanor. Their translator systems struggled to process the phrase, searching for meaning. A final act of defiance. Xathtul laughed. How typically human. Harrison smiled for the first time since the hegemony arrived. "No, Supreme Commander, this isn't defiance." His eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction. "This is revelation." Across the solar system, quantum fields dropped like veils falling away. Europa's ice sheets rippled as massive hangar doors rised open. Saturn's rings shifted as hidden fleet bases revealed themselves. The asteroid belt came alive with weapons platforms emerging from their rocky camouflage. On the view screen, the image of Earth's defensive fleet flickered and vanished, revealed as the holographic deception it had always been. In its place, thousands of advanced warships dropped their quantum masks, appearing simultaneously at precisely calculated positions around the hegemony fleet. Impossible, Saftel whispered, his supreme confidence cracking for the first time. No, Harrison's voice carried the weight of decades of planning. Not impossible, inevitable. You see, Supreme Commander, everything you've seen for the past 3 months has been a carefully crafted lie. Every weakness, every failure, every sign of human incompetence, all designed to bring us to this moment. The massive view screen filled with images of humanity's true military might, quantum battleships that dwarfed the hegemony's largest vessels, weapon systems that made their technology look primitive in comparison. Now then, Harrison's smile turned predatory as he stepped away from the podium. Shall we discuss the terms of your surrender? The trap had sprung, and the galaxy would never be the same. The hegemony's tactical display erupted with thousands of new contacts as humanity's true fleet revealed itself. Massive carriers burst from Europa's ice, their quantum drives leaving geometric patterns of superheated steam in their wake. From Saturn's rings, stealth destroyers emerged like predators from camouflage, their weapon systems already locked on vital targets. Tactical analysis. Saftel screamed, his composed demeanor shattered. How did they? Impossible to complete analysis. The hegemony AI responded, its artificial voice showing stress for the first time. Human vessel configurations do not match any known design principles. Detecting weapons systems that violate understood laws of physics. Harrison watched the chaos unfold with cold satisfaction. You know what your greatest mistake was, Supreme Commander. He gestured to the massive view screen where Earth's hidden fleet was executing a perfect encirclement. You assumed that just because we showed you primitive technology, it was all we had. The ETS Hyperion, humanity's flagship, emerged from its quantum fold directly above the hegemony formation. Its hull seemed to drink in light, covered in materials that the alien sensors couldn't properly process. Captain Maya Chen stood on its bridge, surrounded by holographic tactical displays that made the hegemony's technology look like children's toys. All vessels, execute attack pattern Omega, she commanded. Show them what humanity's been hiding. The first shot of the battle came from the Hyperion itself. A quantum cascade beam lanced out, its energy warping local spacetime. 3 hegemony cruisers simply ceased to exist, their matter converted to energy so efficiently that they didn't even explode. By the first ones, a hegemony officer whispered, "What kind of weapons are these?" "The kind we developed specifically for you," Harrison answered, now standing tall and confident. "We've had 50 years to study your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. Every ship in our fleet was designed with one purpose, to counter everything you thought made you invincible." Around Saturn, Captain David Chen's stealth squadron demonstrated the fruits of that research. Their ships executed maneuvers that the hegemony's tactical computers classified as physically impossible, using quantum positioning to appear simultaneously in multiple locations. Multiple dimensional incursions detected. A hegemony sensor operator shouted, "They're attacking from everywhere at once." The hegemony fleet attempted to form a defensive sphere, but their formations were already compromised. Humanity's ships seemed to predict their every move, neutralizing their advantages with terrifying precision. Fascinating, isn't it? Harrison commented as another wave of hegemony ships vanished under quantum cascade fire. How quickly the hunters become the hunted. In the Jupiter sector, General Sarah Foster unleashed humanity's masterstroke. The massive quantum arrays hidden in the gas giant's atmosphere activated, creating a localized field that selectively disabled the hegemony's faster-than-light drives. No retreat. Foster transmitted across all frequencies. No escape. Just surrender. Supreme Commander Saftel watched in horror as his mighty fleet was systematically dismantled by weapons they couldn't counter and tactics they couldn't predict. The humans weren't just winning. They were doing it with overwhelming superiority. Those mining accidents we reported. Harrison's voice carried satisfaction as he watched another hegemony battlegroup fall to coordinated quantum strikes. Weapons tests. The power grid fluctuations you detected. Quantum forge operations. Even our apparent communication delays were calculated to mislead you. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted less than 15 minutes. When it ended, the mighty hegemony fleet had been reduced to scattered survivors, their vaunted technology proven obsolete against humanity's hidden advances. Your species, Xathtal finally spoke, his voice hollow. You could have fought us from the beginning. Why the deception? Harrison's smile was cold. Because, Supreme Commander, we needed to know everything about you before we revealed ourselves. Your tactics, your technology, your arrogance, it all helped us perfect our response. Every moment you spent laughing at our primitive technology was another moment we spent ensuring our victory would be absolute. Above Earth, the Hyperion's quantum arrays powered down, their work complete. Humanity had revealed its true face to the galaxy, and the age of hegemony dominance was over. The wolf had shown its teeth, and the galaxy would never be the same. The aftermath of humanity's reveal unfolded like a deadly ballet across the solar system. Scattered groups of hegemony vessels attempted desperate last stands, only to discover that each human ship had been specifically designed to counter their every tactic. Remarkable, Admiral Harrison mused, watching the tactical display aboard the Hyperion's command deck. They're still trying to execute standard pattern Delta 7. The same maneuver they've used for centuries. Captain Maya Chen nodded as her squadron effortlessly predicted and intercepted another hegemony counterattack. That's the problem with being unchallenged for too long. You forget how to adapt. The remaining hegemony ships moved like wounded animals, their once pristine formation now broken and scattered. Every attempt to regroup was met with precise quantum strikes from seemingly impossible angles. Human vessels phased in and out of normal space, their quantum drives making conventional tactical doctrine obsolete. Sir, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from his station, we're detecting energy spikes from the remaining hegemony capital ships. They appear to be charging their main weapons. Harrison allowed himself a small smile. Just as predicted. Captain Chen, if you would. The Hyperion's quantum arrays hummed to life, their energy signatures rippling through subspace. Before the hegemony vessels could fire, their weapon systems simply disconnected. Centuries of advanced alien technology rendered useless by targeted quantum field manipulation. How? Supreme Commander Xathtal demanded from his crippled flagship. How did you develop countermeasures to systems you'd never even seen? Oh, but we had seen them, Harrison responded, his voice carrying decades of satisfied patience. Every time you conquered a world, we were watching, learning. When you subjugated the Centauri colonies, we were there. When you crushed the Proxima Rebellion, we took notes. For 50 years, we've studied every aspect of your empire. Through the massive view screen, they watched as another group of hegemony ships attempted to execute an emergency fold jump. The quantum inhibitor fields caught them mid-transition, leaving them trapped between normal space and hyperspace. Your tactics, Harrison continued. Your technology, your very way of thinking. It all follows patterns. Patterns we've spent half a century learning to exploit. Those embarrassing technical failures you witnessed. Carefully crafted performances to hide our quantum research facilities. The primitive defenses you scorned. Holographic cover for weapon systems you couldn't imagine. Captain David Chen's stealth squadron demonstrated this point beautifully. Their ships executing a series of synchronized quantum jumps that turned three-dimensional space into a killing ground. Hegemony vessels found themselves caught in geometric patterns of crossfire, their shields useless against weapons specifically designed to bypass them. This isn't just a battle, Harrison explained to the defeated Supreme Commander. This is the culmination of the longest military deception in human history. Every apparent weakness was engineered. Every seeming vulnerability was planned. We needed you to believe you had us outmatched, outgunned, and overwhelmed. The last pocket of organized hegemony resistance tried to make a break for the outer system. They made it exactly as far as humanity's strategic models had predicted before running straight into General Foster's waiting ambush. The quantum nets closed like a trap, and another battle group joined the growing list of surrendered forces. Final status report, Chen announced, her holographic tactical display showing the complete victory humanity had engineered. 87% of hegemony vessels have surrendered. The remainder are either disabled or destroyed. Casualties on our side? 0. Harrison nodded, satisfaction evident in his bearing. Send word to all commands. Operation Thunderstrike is complete. Begin recovery operations for surrendered vessels. As human ships moved to secure their prisoners, the true scale of the deception became clear to the hegemony survivors. Every piece of technology they encountered showed decades of advanced development. Every tactical response demonstrated intimate knowledge of their capabilities. The humans hadn't just prepared for this battle. They'd spent half a century ensuring it would be their only battle. Consider this, Harrison told the silent Supreme Commander. While you were laughing at our primitive attempts at spaceflight, we were building the force that would end your empire. The real question is, how many other species have you underestimated? Across the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet emerged fully from the shadows, their quantum drives painting the sky with artificial auroras. The dance was over, and Earth had led. The hegemony flagship's command deck, once a symbol of alien superiority, now served as the stage for humanity's emergence as a galactic power. Admiral Harrison stood where Supreme Commander Xathtul had lounged just hours before, surveying the changed landscape of human-alien relations through the massive viewscreen. Send the signal, he ordered, his voice carrying the weight of victory. Let the galaxy see what happened here today. Quantum communication arrays, hidden in deep space for decades, activated simultaneously. Across thousands of worlds, the hegemony's subjugated species watched in stunned silence as footage of the battle spread at FTL speeds. They saw their oppressors' mighty fleet reduced to scattered debris by weapons that shouldn't exist, employed by a species that had seemed primitive mere hours ago. You know what happens next. Harrison addressed the assembled hegemony prisoners. Your empire was built on fear and technological superiority. Now both are gone. Xathtul, his ornate armor now dulled and damaged, lifted his head. You've doomed the galaxy to chaos. Without the hegemony's order. Order? Harrison's laugh carried no humor. Is that what you call systematic oppression? Tell me, Supreme Commander, did you ever wonder why we waited so long to reveal ourselves? On the tactical display, reports were already coming in. Throughout hegemony space, conquered species were rising up. The quantum communication arrays weren't just broadcasting humanity's victory. They were transmitting technical specifications, weapon designs, and tactical data to every resistance movement in the galaxy. 50 years of preparation, Harrison continued, wasn't just about developing weapons to defeat you. It was about ensuring what came after. Every resistance group, every subjugated species, has just received everything they need to break free. Not to mention proof that the mighty hegemony can be beaten. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached with a data tablet. Sir, we're receiving transmissions from 17 different species requesting diplomatic relations with Earth. The Centauri colonies have already overthrown their hegemony governors. The Proxima sectors are declaring independence. Through the viewscreen, they watched as human ships began deploying quantum communication beacons throughout the solar system. Earth was no longer hiding its technological advancement. The beacons would serve as the foundation for a new galactic communication network, one not controlled by any single species. You had centuries to build something meaningful, Harrison addressed the defeated aliens. Instead, you created an empire of fear and subjugation. Well, now humanity is offering something different. Partnership, equal exchange of knowledge, mutual defense. The Hyperion's quantum arrays hummed as they transmitted vast databases of human scientific knowledge across the galaxy. Medical techniques, agricultural advances, clean energy systems. Everything the hegemony had hoarded was now being freely shared. "Sir," Captain Chen reported, "the first diplomatic vessels are arriving. The Centauri representative is requesting immediate audience." Harrison nodded, a genuine smile crossing his face. Humanity's first allies in the post-hegemony galaxy. How fitting that they're the ones who suffered most under alien rule. From his place among the prisoners, Saftul watched in growing horror as his empire crumbled. "You planned this, all of it. The defeat of our fleet was just the beginning." "Of course it was," Harrison confirmed. "We could have revealed ourselves years ago, but that would have led to a prolonged war. Instead, we waited, planned, and struck at exactly the right moment. One decisive battle to break your military might, followed by an immediate power transition to prevent chaos." The tactical display was alive with reports of peaceful revolutions spreading across hegemony space. Centuries of oppressive rule were ending not with prolonged warfare, but with quick, decisive changes of power backed by Earth's newly revealed technological might. "Welcome to the dawn of a new age," Harrison announced to the gathered aliens, both prisoners and newly arrived allies. "Humanity is stepping onto the galactic stage, not as conquerors, but as liberators. Not as oppressors, but as partners." Above Earth, the combined fleet of humanity's most advanced ships formed an honor guard for the arriving diplomatic vessels. The quantum drives painted the sky with artificial auroras, a declaration visible from the surface. Earth was hidden no more. The age of the hegemony was over. The era of humanity had begun.